I was in Nottingham for nearly 4 days, and it was cloudy, murky, very grim weather, drizzling throughout my time that I was there. Except that it all changed in the last couple of hours yesterday when the sun peeped through and seemed to be wishing me well for Manchester. Here I am now in Manchester after a beautiful train journey, which incidentally was my first after having taken a few buses. And voila, those wishes seem to have worked. It was sunny and the clouds seemed to have disappeared for a long time, except when I moved out of the house and went towards the Manchester city centre. The clouds, which had started to form about 15-20 minutes back, burst, and there was a lot of rain at that stage. Now, fingers crossed, I hope that the rain will stay away come Sunday when India and Pakistan go head-to-head against each other in a salivating game. I'm heading towards Old Trafford, which is just behind me, which is my first ever visit to this great stadium. That was me and many other cricket fans getting excited by this encounter. Of course, Shoaib Akhtar doesn't seem to think so, because he thinks this is what is going to happen. Now, speaking about going head-to-head in this salivating encounter, let's do things a little differently this time. Let's see how these two teams stack up.
Thank you.
Every cricket fan and their dog knows that in World Cup cricket, India is the king when it comes to playing against Pakistan, leading 6-0. But let's look at ODI cricket outside the World Cup cricket. In the last 10 years, India leads the head-to-head 9-5 in ODIs. Now that's what we're talking about. Just 14 matches played in the last 10 years between India and Pakistan because of obvious reasons. In the last 10 years as well, overall in ODIs, India has a 158-84 win-loss record to give them a ratio of 1.88. Pakistan's win-loss ratio is a mere 0.92, which is less than half of India. In that same period, looking at their respective records against only the teams that have played in this World Cup, the 10 of them, India's win-loss record marginally goes down to 1.72. Pakistan's is 0.7, which is very frankly abysmal. In the last 13 years, only twice have Pakistan won more matches against India in a particular year. But, as a lot of Pakistani fans will say, they won the Champions Trophy. So, you know. More than 27 years ago, India and Pakistan played each other in an ICC tournament, and obviously the first ever 50-over Cricket World Cup tournament. And 7 World Cup competitions on, these two teams meet again in another contest with the obvious pressure that an India-Pakistan game brings. But also even more so this time, given the off-field politics that has threatened to take away from the beauty of the contest itself. And here I am in Manchester, the same venue for the contest where it was played in 1999 as well. The World Cup in 1999 was a low-scoring contest and had made for an interesting one with Venkatesh Prasad ripping through the opposition. So which are the other moments from India-Pakistan matches in World Cup that you remember? Here are some of them. Of course, it started with this one in 1992 where Javed Miandad gave that impression that he had lost his marbles. Kiran More might have gotten under his skin a little bit, but what did in the end happen was that he lost his stumps to Javagal Srinath and Pakistan lost the game, triggering a chain of results that has taken us through to 2019.
And Javed will just make his point now. Say, hang on a moment, son, and excuse me, Mr. Moray, would you mind not talking while I'm facing up?
And not out is the final decision. Yes, he's never...
In 1996, the two teams met for the first time in a World Cup knockout game, and Amir Sohail took on the Indian bowlers with the bat and with his mouth. Big mistake. Should have kept to sending those balls to the fence. Instead, he lost his stumps and Pakistan lost the game. We have already spoken about what happened in the 1999 tournament where Venkatesh Prasad took a fifer to help India beat Pakistan. So moving on to 2003, and we can keep looking at this Tendulkar uppercut on a loop. My favorite moment amongst a lot of them. Like really on a loop.
And he goes after that one, and it's 6. And he goes after that one, and it's 6. And he goes after that one, and it's 6.
One more time.
And he goes after that one, and it's 6.
Moving on to the 2011 World Cup, they met in the semi-finals for the first time. Sachin Tendulkar made a half century, was a scratchy knock, did survive a few times. Pakistan dropped a few catches. Wahab Riaz came back, took a fifer. That Yuvraj Singh middle pole knocked out, and Pakistan later on collapsed after Umar Akmal, having got a start, threw it away. And then Pakistan began their next campaign in 2015 with the way that they ended in the 2011 World Cup against India yet again. For India, the mantle had been passed on from Tendulkar to Kohli, who hammered a century, and India hammered Pakistan by 76 runs. Now, talking about India. India joined the list of teams that have dropped points this World Cup, but due to inclement weather, after their game against New Zealand was abandoned without even the toss having taken place. But unlike some of the other teams, which includes Pakistan, they are on 2 wins to go with that rained-off match, which gives them some breathing space. Of course, breathing space or otherwise, a game against Pakistan is a tournament of its own, with the winner lifting some serious bragging rights, brownie points, whether or not that helps the team in the overall context of a tournament like this. India will miss Shikhar Dhawan, who obviously is out injured with a thumb injury. He averages 54 against Pakistan, gives India a solid lefty-righty option to go with a truckload of opening experience that they have. KL Rahul will open the innings, but the big question now is who bats at 4. This mystery would have probably unraveled a couple of days ago had it not been for the rain in Nottingham. But speaking about mysteries, and Kuldeep Yadav might have also missed out the last game going into those conditions where it was rainy, it was moist. It would have been difficult for him, but he should form a part of the syllabus for Sarfaraz's men in this game. What he had said last time was that the Pakistan team had prepared for Kuldeep Yadav and for Chahal, but did not prepare for Kedar Jadhav. This time he better prepare for all 3 of them going into this game. Now, there's one big aspect that could come into the fore in this game, and that's the 2 teams fielding. India have been absolutely clinical in both their games, but more so against Australia, while Pakistan are coming off a horror show against Australia, as a lot of former Pakistani commentators, former Pakistani cricketers and current commentators have to say. We've spoken about Pakistan's mercurial nature ad nauseum, none more exemplified by a 105 all-out against the West Indies and a win against the top-ranked side, England. A shocking record before and after the 2017 Champions Trophy, but that Champions Trophy win as well. Interestingly, since winning the Champions Trophy, Pakistan have won an ODI series against Zimbabwe, and they have won one against Sri Lanka, but then have lost to New Zealand, South Africa, Australia, England, and crashed out of the Asia Cup in the group stages. In fact, they lost 9-0 to Australia and England, if I'm not wrong. That is obviously not stopping the experts from writing Pakistan off, as you can see here. Now, Pakistan, since the arrival of the likes of Babar Azam, Fakhar Zaman and Imamul Haq, have given the impression of being an improved batting lineup. But there's nothing to choose between the 2 records when you look at the last 2 years vis-a-vis the 2 years before that. So you're looking at 2015 to 2017 as one period and 2017 to 19 as the other one. The average has remained the same, the strike rate has probably remained the same as well. But over these last 4 periods, Pakistan have a batting average of around 35, which compares very favorably to the period before that, where they averaged a mere 28 and have a strike rate of 10 runs more in these 4 years than previously. The other story is that of Mohammad Amir's return to form. It was in the UK that he was on 7th heaven when he helped Pakistan to win that Champions Trophy final, but in the period after that, and before this World Cup obviously, he has averaged a measly 92 with the ball over 15 ODIs. Now that should have been enough to drop any bowler, any player for a long time, but with no other bowler delivering goods in the ODI series in England, I think Amir selected himself into the game, into the tournament, and here he is, 3 games into the competition, 10 wickets at just 12.3, which at the time of scripting this one was the best by any bowler in the tournament. Also, speak of being mercurial. Here are some quick stats. Since the previous World Cup, Rohit Sharma averages 85 in games against Pakistan over 4 ODIs. Now, Rohit Sharma got out to Mohammad Amir in that Champions Trophy final, but that was the only occasion he's gotten out to Mohammad Amir. While the entire focus will be on the troika of Babar Azam, Imam-ul-Haq and Fakhar Zaman, as I said in my previous portion, Mohammad Hafiz averages 54.6 against India in the past 10 years, and that's something to watch out for. Hafiz in that middle order, taking the game away from the opposition. Here's another one for Hafiz. His economy rate versus India in the past 10 years is a mere 3.82 runs per over. That's the lowest for any bowler in the world in the past 10 years against India with more than 5 wickets. So these are some things to look out for going into this game. Now, prediction time. Drum roll, please, given what my record has been. But I'll apologize here. I have to say that there'll be no prediction from me today because my editor has warned me not to say anything. She believes that I owe her at least that and a cup of English breakfast tea. That because I make some horrible predictions, and English breakfast tea because she likes that. After what I said about her in the last preview, you can have a look in my last preview. Having said that, she believes that India will win, and she has had a special affinity towards the Indian team all through these years. So take that with a little bit of a pinch of salt. But well, frankly speaking, India go into the game as favourites and should win this game.